I'm a programmer, the kind of guy who disappears into a crowd. And then I met Genevieve Sterling, the woman who could probably buy the whole city block. She looked at me, her eyes shining with a terrifying intensity, and told me I was her medicine. I was scared enough to run, but she cornered me, her voice trembling, "Don't hide from me." It was only later that I discovered her phone held over 1,000 photos of me. Well, my name is Liam Carter. I write code for a mid-sized tech company in Denver. My life runs on a loop, predictable as a well-written script, until the company retreat at some ridiculously expensive restaurant downtown. I stepped out onto the rooftop patio for a smoke just to breathe. When I turned around, I saw her, Genevieve Sterling. I wouldn't learn her name until later. She was standing in the soft glow of the city lights, wearing a simple black dress that probably cost more than my rent. Her eyes were locked on me, like I was a long-lost treasure she'd finally found. I froze for a second, then instinctively stubbed out my cigarette. It felt rude to smoke in front of someone like her, but she walked toward me. Her steps were a little unsteady. "You," she began, her voice hoarse. "What's your name?" I told her. "Liam Carter." She repeated it softly, a smile spreading across her face. Something was wrong with that smile. It was too much, too intense, too fragile, like a rose blooming its last, most perfect petal before shattering. "I've been looking for you for a long time," she said. "I figured it was a case of mistaken identity." "Ma'am, I think you have the wrong person. We've never met." "We have now." She was close, so close I could smell a cold, clean fragrance on her like winter air. Suddenly, she reached out and grabbed my wrist. Her grip was shockingly strong. "I'm Genevieve Sterling. Will you come with me?" Of course, I didn't go with her. I told her my team was waiting for me inside. The light in her eyes dimmed for a moment, but she didn't push. As she let go, her fingertips lingered on my wrist for a few seconds. They were cold. Back inside, my coworkers were joking about what took me so long. I laughed it off. I didn't mention the bizarre encounter, just a weird blip. But the next evening, when I left the office, there she was again, downstairs, leaning against a sleek black Audi, unlit, like a quiet shadow. The moment I walked out, she stood up straight. "Liam." She said my name so naturally, you'd think we were old friends. A weird chill went down my spine. "Miss Sterling, what are you doing here?" "Picking you up from work," she said, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. She opened the passenger door. "Get in. I'll give you a ride." I refused. "That's not appropriate, Miss Sterling. We don't know each other." She just stared at me, her gaze heavy, making it hard to breathe. "We can get to know each other over dinner." I shook my head again. "No, really, I'm good." She didn't insist, but as I turned to walk to the light rail station, the Audi followed me, maintaining a steady, quiet distance, all the way until I disappeared down the steps. From that day on, she was there almost every day. She never honked or flashed her lights, just waited quietly downstairs, following me home or to the station. 3 of my coworkers started whispering, asking if I'd landed a rich girlfriend. I couldn't explain it. The pressure was just a lot. One night, I deliberately stayed late, hoping she'd get tired of waiting and leave. It was 11 p.m. when I finally went downstairs. She was still there. The early autumn wind was getting sharp and cold. She was just wearing a thin dress, leaning against her car. When she saw me, her eyes lit up instantly, like a puppy who'd finally spotted its owner coming home. Something in my chest twisted. "Why are you still waiting?" "You told me you were still at work," she said softly, her voice a little thick, probably from the cold. I sighed. "Miss Sterling, we need to talk." She nodded immediately. "Okay, can we talk at your place?" she asked, her eyes filled with a kind of cautious hope. I hesitated, then nodded. We couldn't just stand on the street corner all night. She followed me home, to my 650-square-foot, one-bedroom apartment in Capitol Hill. When she came inside, she looked around at everything with a wide-eyed curiosity. Her expression was clean, almost innocent. It was completely at odds with the powerful aura she projected. I poured her a glass of water. "Miss Sterling, what is it that you want?" She held the glass in both hands, the condensation clouding the surface. "I want to be with you," she said, so blunt it made me choke. For I coughed, having inhaled my water. "Be with me, why?" I knew I was nothing special. Average looks, average job, and a thoroughly average background. The kind of guy you'd lose in a crowd in 3 seconds. She put the glass down and looked at me, dead serious. You're good. Good in what way? In every way, she said. When I see you, this feeling here. She pointed to her chest. It stops hurting. What kind of reason was that? I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Miss Sterling, maybe you're just... I'm not sick, she cut me off, her gaze stubborn. I'm perfectly healthy. I just need you. Those words were too heavy. I couldn't hold them. The conversation stalled. She sat in my cramped living room for a while longer before getting up to leave on her own. Before she left, she pulled an insulated container from her expensive-looking handbag. I brought you something for after work, she said quietly, in case you were hungry. Then, before I could refuse, she opened the door and hurried out. I opened the container. Inside were meticulously arranged, artful desserts. They looked like they came from a Michelin-star restaurant. I stared at the box of pastries, my mind a total mess. I thought after that talk, she would back off. She didn't. She still showed up every day, right on time. She just stopped insisting on driving me home. Sometimes she'd hand me a hot coffee. Sometimes a container of fresh-cut fruit. Once it was just a single flower, carefully wrapped. She never said much. She'd just hand me the item and watch me. If I didn't take it, she wouldn't take it back. She'd just stand there, holding it out stubbornly, until I gave in. My co-workers' jokes evolved. Liam, your benefactor is here again. That's what they'd say. I held the coffee she gave me, the warmth seeping through the cardboard into my palm. It was almost too hot. I started to wonder if she had the wrong guy. Or maybe I just looked like someone important to her. I asked her. She shook her head. There's no one else. There's only you. It's always been you. The way she said it, her focus was so intense, it was unnerving. I had to look away. 6 one night, it was pouring rain. I worked until 10, assuming she wouldn't come in that kind of weather. But the moment I stepped out of the building, I saw her standing under an umbrella in the downpour. It was a huge umbrella, but one of her shoulders was completely soaked. She had clearly been waiting for a long time. She was holding a paper bag. As soon as she saw me, she walked over and handed it to me. For you. Inside was a new jacket. The one you were wearing yesterday looked a little thin, she said, her voice muffled by the sound of the rain. The temperature dropped today. A wave of conflicting emotions washed over me. You've been waiting here this whole time. Yeah. How long? Not long, she said, avoiding the question. I watched the rain drip from the ends of her hair. For the first time, I made the first move. Get in the car. I'll drive you home. Her eyes lit up in an instant, like they'd been filled with stars. The car was silent, except for the rhythmic sweep of the windshield wipers. She gave me an address in Cherry Creek, a neighborhood I'd heard of but never been to. It was where the real money lived. On the way, I couldn't help but ask, don't you get tired doing this every day? No. Why me? I'd asked this question so many times. Her answer was always more or less the same. But this time, she was quiet for a moment. What if I told you? It was just a feeling. A feeling told you it had to be me. Yes. She stared at the rain-blurred road ahead. The first time I saw you this. She pointed to her heart again. It just told me, that's him. There's no mistake. The reason felt too mystical, too strange. I couldn't wrap my head around it. But looking at her quiet profile, I didn't press her further. The car stopped in front of her mansion. She didn't get out right away. Liam. Yeah. Can I hug you? She asked, so softly I could barely hear the plea in her voice. I froze, ate-eye. Didn't answer. She waited a moment, then managed a small, sad smile. Never mind. She pushed the door open. Drive safe. And with that, she ran into the rain. Without her umbrella, I watched her disappear through the tall, iron gate, a weird feeling churning in my gut. After that night, she still came every day, but she never mentioned her request again. Sometimes, though, I'd catch her staring at my wrist. Once, she even subconsciously reached out a hand, only to snatch it back like she'd been burned. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't understand what she was sorry for, but the regret and fear in her eyes were so real that I didn't feel right asking. We seemed to have fallen into a strange equilibrium. She was good to me. I passively accepted, never refusing but never initiating, until the day I came down with a fever. I called in sick and was passed out in bed. Through a hazy fever dream, I heard the doorbell. I dragged myself to the door. It was Genevieve. The moment she saw me, her expression changed. You have a fever. She touched my forehead. Her hand was cool and felt good. I'm fine, I said, trying to pull away, but I couldn't. What's your temperature? She demanded, her tone urgent. 101. 5, I think. Just took it. She immediately pushed me back toward my bedroom. Get back in bed. I was too weak to argue and let her take over. She tucked the covers around me, then started making a call. Her voice was cold and commanding, a tone I'd never heard before. She was barking orders at someone on the other end. To bring medicine, the best, right now. Immediately. After hanging up, she was back to the quiet, almost timid person I knew. She sat on the edge of my bed, just looking at me. Does it feel bad? It's okay. Are you thirsty? Hungry? No, I'm good. She pressed her lips together and fell silent. But every few minutes, she'd reach out and check the temperature of my forehead again, her brow furrowed with worry. The medicine arrived quickly. She read the instructions carefully, then helped me take it. She soaked a washcloth in cool water and laid it on my forehead. Her movements were clumsy, but incredibly gentle. I watched her bustling around. A small part of the wall I'd built around my heart quietly crumbled. Genevieve. Yes. She looked up instantly. Why? Are you so good to me? She put the washcloth down and looked at me. Do you need a reason to be good to someone? I think so, I said. Otherwise, what's the justification? She thought for a moment. If I have to give you a reason, she said, it's because it makes me happy. Seeing you well makes me happy. And seeing you sick, this place here. She pointed to her heart again. It hurts. She said it with such earnestness, her eyes as clear as a freshly washed sky. I closed my eyes. I couldn't look at her anymore. I was afraid if I kept looking, I'd drown in that sky. After I got better, my attitude toward her softened. At the very least, I started making small talk with her, asking if she'd eaten or if traffic was bad. Every time I asked, her eyes would light up. Then she'd answer seriously, like a student called on by a teacher. One weekend, she asked me to go out with her. Where are we going? I asked. You'll see when we get there, she said, being mysterious for once. I hesitated but agreed. She drove me to an amusement park. I was a little surprised. I'd expected some fancy, exclusive venue. Why here? You mentioned once that you never got to go as a kid, she said, looking at me. I was stunned. I had said that, in passing, during some random conversation. She remembered. Come on, she said, going to buy tickets. I want to ride the Ferris wheel with you. The amusement park was packed. She was clearly uncomfortable in the crowd, her brow slightly furrowed the whole time. But she stayed right by my side, like a little kid afraid of getting lost. We rode the Ferris wheel. As our car climbed higher, the city spread out beneath us. She pressed her face against the glass, taking it all in. This is my first time on one of these, she said. Really? You never came as a kid, either? No, she shook her head. My family wouldn't allow it. She turned to look at me. But I want to do it with you. Do everything I've never done before. The car reached the very top. Suddenly, she leaned in and gave me a quick, soft kiss on the cheek. Then she pulled back just as fast, the tips of her ears bright red. But her eyes were sparkling as she looked at me. They say if you kiss at the top of the Ferris wheel, you'll be together forever, she whispered. My heart skipped a beat. After the amusement park, things felt different between us. I started getting used to her presence in my life. Used to seeing her after work every day. Used to the little things she brought me. I even got used to her intense, focused stares. Until the day I accidentally saw her phone and saw the pictures of me. Not one or two. Hundreds. Thousands. Some of them were clearly taken without my knowledge, from angles and in places I didn't recognize. A cold dread washed over me. When did you take these? She took her phone back, her expression calm. Ever since I met you. Why would you? I want to be able to see you, she interrupted. Always. Don't you think this is a little? Much. She tilted her head, as if considering the word. But if I can't see you, I feel terrible. She tugged on the corner of my shirt. Liam, don't be mad. I won't take them anymore. She agreed so easily. Somehow, that made me even more uneasy. I started to pull away. I'd stay late at work on purpose. I'd make excuses not to accept the things she brought me. She noticed. Her expression grew darker each day. But she didn't say anything. She just kept coming, waiting stubbornly. Then came Friday night. I worked until 11. The streets were mostly empty by the time I got downstairs. She was in the usual spot, leaning against her car. There was a small pile of cigarette butts on the ground at her feet. I never knew she smoked. She saw me and put out her cigarette. She walked over. Liam, she said, her voice raspy. You've been avoiding me. It was a statement, not a question. I couldn't deny it. Why, she asked. Is it because of the photos? It's not just the photos, I said. Genevieve, you're starting to scare me. She froze. Her eyes widened slowly, and then I saw a tear roll down her cheek. Then another. Big, silent tears. I instantly panicked. I'd never seen her cry. She was always so composed, so determined, with an almost otherworldly directness. But now she was crying. Silently, just letting the tears fall, like she'd been dealt the most devastating blow imaginable. Hey, don't cry. I fumbled, looking for a tissue I didn't have. She grabbed my wrist. Her grip was tight, her fingers ice cold. Liam, don't be scared of me, she choked out. I would never, ever hurt you. I don't know how to be good to someone. I'm doing it wrong, aren't I? She looked up at me, her face streaked with tears, her makeup smudged. She looked messy and heartbreakingly vulnerable. That small kernel of fear and unease I'd been feeling. It mostly dissolved. No, it's not wrong, I sighed. But next time you want to take my picture, just ask. Don't do it in secret, okay? She nodded furiously. So, she asked cautiously, you're not mad anymore? No. And you won't avoid me? No. A watery smile broke through her tears. She let go of my wrist and instead wrapped her arms around my arm, hugging it tightly. I'm so cold, she mumbled, pressing her face into my shoulder. Can we go home? Home. She meant my home. That night, she fell asleep on my couch, curled into a tight ball, like a cat that didn't feel safe. When I went to put a blanket over her, I noticed the pillow was damp. A strange softness bloomed in my chest. Maybe she really just didn't know how to express herself. Her methods were all wrong, but her feelings were real. That's what I told myself. From that day on, our relationship was back to normal. In fact, it was even closer than before. She started telling me where she was going, who she was seeing, and when I'd catch her looking at me, she'd smile. Not just the silent, intense stare from before. I started trying to accept her, because, aside from her methods, she was truly good to me. Impeccably, unbelievably good. Until I ran into an old college classmate. A woman. We stood on the sidewalk and talked for a few minutes. Exchanged numbers. She mentioned a class reunion happening the next day and asked if I was going. I said I'd think about it. Then I looked up and saw Genevieve standing across the street, watching us with a completely blank expression. After my classmate left, she walked over. Who was that? Her voice was calm, but I knew she was not happy. Just a classmate from college. Ran into her by chance. She wanted your number? Yeah, for a reunion tomorrow. Are you going? Haven't decided. She went silent. The entire ride was quiet. When we got to her place, she didn't get out of the car. Liam. Yeah, can you not go? I turned to look at her. Her eyes were cast down, her fingers twisting the hem of her shirt. I don't like it. Don't like what? I don't like other people looking at you, she said, lifting her head. Her eyes were dark. And I don't like you looking at other people. My stomach dropped. That feeling of unease was back. 18. Genevieve, I said, trying to keep my voice level. That's just normal social interaction. I don't need normal social interaction. She cut me off. I have you, and you can only have me. She said it like it was a law of nature. I looked at her and suddenly felt exhausted. You can't be like this. Why not? It's not normal. What's normal? She shot back. Just because most people do it, that makes it normal. I was speechless. She moved closer, her voice softening. Liam, just don't go. Spend tomorrow with me, okay? I booked a table at that restaurant, the one you said you wanted to try. She remembered every single thing I ever said in passing, but she couldn't understand my most basic needs. I looked into her pleading eyes, and I caved. Okay. She instantly broke into a grin, like a child who'd just been given candy. She leaned over and kissed my cheek. You're the best. She got out of the car, her steps light and happy. I watched her go, a heavy weight settling in my chest. 19. I didn't go to the reunion. I went to that restaurant with her. The food was incredible, but she barely touched her plate. She just watched me eat. You're not hungry? I asked. Watching you eat is enough to make me full, she said with a smile. The comment made me uncomfortable, but I let it go. When we were paying, the waiter looked at me for a second too long. Probably just thought I looked familiar. Her face instantly turned to ice. What are you looking at? She snapped. The waiter jumped and quickly apologized. It's fine, I told him. I grabbed her hand and pulled her out of the restaurant. Outside, she was still fuming. Why was he looking at you? He probably just mistook me for someone else. I don't like it, she said, her lips pressed into a thin line. Genevieve, I said, stopping on the sidewalk. You can't demand that no one in the world ever look at me. Why not? She said, defiant. If you only looked at me, you wouldn't care if other people were looking at you or not. I stared into her clear, obsessive eyes, and I suddenly realized the problem between us was much deeper than I had ever imagined. 20. I started doing some research online about paranoia, possessiveness, obsessive love disorder. The more I read, the colder I felt. She checked so many of the boxes, but I couldn't bring myself to leave. She was too good to me, good to the point of covering every detail of my life, of giving me everything she had. And besides, she only lost control when it came to me. In every other aspect of her life, she was as normal as could be, smarter and calmer than most people. Even, it gave me a sliver of false hope. Maybe I could change her. Slowly, I tried to communicate with her. I talked about appropriate boundaries, about the difference between care and control. She listened intently. Then she asked, so, as long as I do it without you finding out, it's okay? That's not what I mean. Then what do you mean? I want you to trust me, deep down. I do trust you, she said immediately. I just don't trust anyone else. The conversation went in a circle, ending right where it began. 21. The days passed. Before I knew it, we'd known each other for almost 6 months. She started talking about the future more and more. Where should we live in the future? We should get a cat. You should quit your job and come work at my company. Then I could see you all day. That last one set off alarms. I can see you every day now. It's not the same, she said, playing with my fingers. Now I can only see you after work. During the day, I'm always thinking about you, thinking about what you're doing if you're talking to any female coworkers. Her tone was light, like she was joking, but I knew she was dead serious. I'm not going to do that. Why not? I could pay you 10 times what you're making now. It's not about the money. Then what is it? It's about freedom. But I didn't say it out loud. She knew what I was thinking. Her expression darkened, but she didn't push. Fine. She leaned her head on my shoulder. You'll agree eventually, anyway. Her certainty was terrifying. 22. My company assigned me to a business trip for 3 days. To Salt Lake City. When I told her, she was silent for a very long time. Do you have to go? Yeah, it's for work. Can't someone else go? I'm the lead on the project. She didn't say anything else. But that night, she was incredibly clingy. She held on to me and wouldn't let go. You have to call me every day. I will. Video call. Okay, don't be alone with any female colleagues. I won't. If I find out. She didn't finish, but her eyes said everything. I sighed. Genevieve, what about trusting me? I do trust you, she repeated. I just don't trust anyone else. There was again. I was too tired to argue. The day of my flight, she drove me to the airport. At the security gate, she suddenly grabbed my arm. Liam, yeah, you're coming back, right? There was a vulnerability in her eyes that made my heart ache. Of course I am. I'll be back in 3 days. She nodded and let go. I'll be waiting. 23. The trip went smoothly. I called and texted her on schedule every day. She always replied instantly. But her messages were laced with anxiety. What are you doing? Who are you with? What's your hotel room number? I answered every question. The discomfort I felt was overshadowed by my concern for her. She's just deeply insecure, I told myself. On the third night, the project wrapped up ahead of schedule. My colleague suggested we go to a bar to celebrate. I thought about it, then sent her a text. Project's done. Colleagues are heading to a bar. I'll be back at the hotel later. She called me the second she got the message. Which bar? What's wrong? Send me the address. Are you coming here? Yes. You don't have to. I'll only be there for a little while. Send me the address, she repeated, her tone leaving no room for argument. I sent it. An hour later, she appeared at the entrance of the bar. She looked exhausted. Her eyes were bloodshot. How did you get here? I drove, she said. It's a 3-hour drive. She looked at me, then pulled me into a fierce hug. I missed you so much. Her voice was thick with emotion. My colleagues were staring, and I felt a little awkward. But mostly, I just felt my heart break for her. I missed you too, I said, patting her back. Let's go back. Okay. 24. On the way back to the hotel, She held my hand tightly, as if she was afraid I'd disappear. Don't you have work tomorrow? I asked. I took the day off. Just to come get me? Yeah. She leaned her head on my shoulder. I can't sleep when I can't see you. At the hotel, she wanted to take a shower first. I sat on the bed, my mind a tangled mess. Her obsession was even more severe than I'd thought, but I couldn't bring myself to be angry. A 3-hour drive, alone, late at night, just because she missed me. She came out of the bathroom wearing my button-down shirt. It was way too big on her. I didn't bring any clothes, she explained. She climbed into bed and curled up in my arms. Liam, yeah, let's get married. I froze. What? Let's get married, she repeated, looking up at me, her eyes shining. Then you'll be mine forever. She said it so casually, like she was talking about the weather. I had no idea how to respond. 25. That's really sudden, I managed to say. How is it sudden? She asked, genuinely confused. We've only known each other for 6 months, but it feels like I've known you my whole life. She traced the line of my jaw with her fingers. Don't you feel that way? You don't want to? Her expression clouded over. It's not that I don't want to, it's just what? I need time. I didn't say it. I knew that, to her, time and distance were meaningless. The only thing that mattered was whether I wanted it or not. Can I just think about it? She watched me for a long moment, then nodded. Okay. She settled back into my arms. But you can't think for too long. I don't have much patience, especially when it comes to you. Her voice was soft, but it carried an undeniable weight. I didn't sleep at all that night. I stared at her sleeping face beside me, my feelings a chaotic storm. I knew I loved her, but this love was suffocating me. And the scariest part was I was slowly getting used to the feeling of suffocation. We went back to Denver the next day. Life returned to its usual rhythm, but her mentions of marriage became more and more frequent. When we passed a bridal shop, when we drove by the courthouse, even when we were watching a movie, she'd point at a wedding scene and say, we should have ours just like that. Okay? I always gave a vague, non-committal answer. She never pushed, but the hope in her eyes grew more intense every day. I started having nightmares. I dreamt I was trapped in a beautiful, gilded cage. She was outside, watching me with a sweet smile. Now she'd say, you're all mine. I'd wake up in a cold sweat. She'd stir, pulling me into a sleepy hug. What's wrong? Nothing, I'd say. Just a bad dream. Don't be scared, she'd murmur, patting my back. I'm here. I'm here. That phrase used to bring me comfort. Now it just sounded like a cruel joke. Yes, you're here. You're everywhere. I try to have serious talk with her. About marriage, about personal space, about trust. She listened quietly. Then she asked, so you don't want to be with me forever? I do, but not in this kind of. The how doesn't matter, she cut me off. Only the result matters. What about the process? What about my feelings? Your feelings? She tilted her head, thinking, aren't you happy when you're with me? I am, but no buts. She took my hand. Liam, no one in this world loves you more than I do. And no one will ever love you the way I do. She was right. There would probably never be another person who loved me like I was life itself, even more than her own life. But that love was a crushing weight, a weight I was starting to think I couldn't bear. An opportunity came up at work for a training program overseas. It was for a month. I knew if I applied, she would lose her mind. But some twisted part of me filled out the application anyway. I wanted to test it, to see if I could have even a little bit of space for myself, to see if she could change just a little for me. The day after I submitted the form, she knew. She came to my office. Her face was calm, but her eyes were chips of ice. You're leaving. It's just for training. I'll be back in a month. Why didn't you tell me? I just decided yesterday. She fell silent. Then she said, withdraw the application. What? I don't allow it. Genevieve, this is my career. Is your career more important than me? This isn't about what's more important. It is. Her voice suddenly shot up. Everyone in the office turned to look. I grabbed her arm and pulled her into the stairwell. You need to calm down. I'm calm, she said, staring at me. Liam, you want to leave me? It wasn't a question. It was a statement of fact. I don't want to leave you. Then why are you going? It's for my professional development. I don't care. She gripped my arm, her nails digging into my skin. I don't care about professional development. I only care about you. Can't you stop being so selfish for once? The words flew out of my mouth before I could stop them. She froze. Her eyes widened. I'm selfish. Yes, I said, deciding to just let it all out. You only ever think about your own feelings. You want to tie me to your side, but did you ever ask if that's what I wanted? This thing you call love, it's just surveillance, it's control, it's leaving me no room to breathe. This isn't love, it's... What was it? I didn't finish. The look in her eyes stopped me. It was the look of someone whose entire world was collapsing. She slowly let go of my arm, took a step back, and another. So, that's what you really think, she whispered. Then she turned and ran down the stairs. After that day, she vanished. She didn't come to pick me up from work. She didn't text me. She completely disappeared from my life. At first, it was a relief. I could finally breathe, but the relief quickly morphed into unease. Then it became a gaping hole of absence. And finally, I missed her. I called her. She didn't pick up. I texted her. No reply. I went to her house. The housekeeper said she wasn't there. It was like she had just evaporated. I started to feel a crushing regret. I'd been too harsh. She was only loving me in the only way she knew how. Her methods were wrong, but her intentions weren't malicious. Why couldn't I have been more patient? Why couldn't I have been gentler? After 10 days, I couldn't take it anymore. I took the day off work and waited outside her company's building, from morning until night. Finally, I saw her walk out. She had lost weight. Her face was pale. She saw me and paused for a fraction of a second, then continued walking as if I wasn't there. I ran to catch up. Jenna, she ignored me. Can we please talk? She stopped and looked at me, her eyes completely foreign. Talk about what? About how you think I'm selfish and sick and a controlling monster. I was at a loss for words. I'm sorry, I said. I shouldn't have said that. No, you were right, she said softly. That is the kind of person I am. So, let's just end it here. She turned to leave. I grabbed her arm. I withdrew the application. Her body went stiff. I'm not going. Why? Because I realized something. More than any training program, I don't want to lose you. It was the truth. She turned around slowly. Her eyes were glistening with unshed tears. Really? Yeah. She stared at me for a long time. Then, a slow smile spread across her face, like a rainbow after a storm. Okay, she said. Let's go home. The home she meant was her vast, empty mansion. It was my first time spending the night there. She seemed both nervous and excited, like a child showing off their most prized possession. She gave me a tour of every room, the library, the home theater, even the gym. Finally, she stopped at the master bedroom door. This is it, she said, pushing it open. The room was huge, decorated in cool, modern tones. But on the nightstand, there was a completely out-of-place picture frame. Inside was my dorky college ID photo. I had no idea where she even got it. I see you first thing when I wake up every morning, she said quietly, her ears turning a little pink. That night, we just held each other. We didn't do anything else. But she held me so tightly, as if I'd vanished the second she let go. Lying there in the dark, listening to the sound of her steady breathing, I felt a sense of calm I hadn't felt in a long time. Maybe this was my fate. Life seemed to go back to normal, but it was different. She stopped taking pictures of me in secret. Instead, she did it openly. While I was eating, while we were walking, even while I was sleeping. Is this okay? She'd ask, showing me the picture after she took it, as if asking for my permission. What could I say? I could only nod. She would smile, completely satisfied, like a kid who'd just earned a gold star. I started to learn how to accept her ways, to try and see the world from her perspective. Her world was very small, small enough that there was only room for me. It was terrifying, but it was also pure. In early April, she told me she was taking me somewhere special. We drove for a long time, out to the city's edge, near the foothills of the mountains. She led me up a path. On both sides, cherry trees were in full, breathtaking bloom, a cloud of pink and white. How did you find this place? I asked, a little out of breath. I bought it, she said, as if it were nothing. I nearly choked. You bought what? This hillside, she said, looking back at me, her eyes shining. Do you like it? I stared at her, speechless. Buying a mountain just to see some cherry blossoms. That was so Genevieve. Halfway up, there was a flat, grassy clearing. The view was perfect, and the blossoms were thickest there. She spread out a picnic blanket and laid out the food she'd prepared. We sat under the cherry trees. The wind blew, and petals rained down on us. They landed in her hair, on her shoulders. She was wearing a pale pink dress today. Sitting there in the shower of petals, she looked unreal. "Liam," she said suddenly. "Yeah, do you remember what I said on the Ferris wheel?" "Which part?" "That if you kiss at the top, you'll be together forever." "I remember." She looked at me, her gaze both gentle and fiercely possessive. "What about under a cherry tree? When the petals are falling all around you, do you think a kiss then would be even more powerful?" I didn't answer. I just reached out and gently plucked a petal from her hair. Her eyes never left my face, filled with a kind of devout hope. More petals drifted down like a soft pink snow, blanketing her, blanketing me, blanketing the whole world. I looked at her eyelashes, dusted with blossoms, that I looked at her lips, slightly parted, and the last wall I had built inside myself crumbled into dust. I leaned down and kissed her. It was a light kiss. It tasted of cherry blossoms and the salt of her tears. She was crying. Silent tears streamed down her face, but her arms wrapped tightly around my neck, pulling me closer, deepening the kiss. This wasn't like the quick, stolen kiss on the Ferris wheel. This was slower, deeper, filled with a sense of finality, a confirmation of our existence, a confirmation of this heavy, all-consuming, one-of-a-kind love. I don't know how long we stayed like that. When we finally broke apart, her face was flushed a deeper pink than the blossoms around us. Her eyes were wet, reflecting only me. "Liam." "Yeah, you're all mine now." She buried her face in the crook of my neck, her voice muffled and thick from crying. "No one can ever take you away." I held her, watching the petals dance on the wind. My heart was surprisingly calm. There was even a sense of peaceful resignation. "Yeah," I whispered. "I'm yours. I always was." From that first moment on that rooftop patio, under the glow of the city lights, when she grabbed my wrist, my fate was already written. There was no escape, and I didn't want to escape anymore. I would let myself drown. Here, in this beautiful, terrifying paradise she had built just for me.